December is a prophetic doorway, an atmosphere where the natural and the spiritual collide, a moment in time when God intentionally positions His people for unusual encounters and divine shifts. When we say a month carries prophetic weight, it is not because the calendar itself holds power, but because God chooses moments, seasons, and times to release specific graces upon individuals, families, and territories. December carries the symbolism of completion, the closing of cycles, and the preparation for new beginnings, and such seasons often become spiritual portals through which heaven releases long-awaited answers. It is a month where God rewrites stories, seals victories, and accelerates processes that seem stagnant throughout the year. Many have labored, prayed, and believed, yet have not seen the manifestation of what they carried in their spirit. But when a prophetic doorway opens, what was once resisted suddenly becomes possible, and what looked delayed begins to unfold with divine speed. There is an atmosphere that surrounds such moments, a stirring, a spiritual restlessness that suggests God is closer than usual, ready to intervene, ready to lift, ready to restore. In this prophetic doorway, God invites His people into deeper alignment. Breakthrough is not random, it is the result of divine strategy meeting human obedience. A prophetic season carries the grace for transformation, but it also demands sensitivity and discernment. Many destinies have turned around not because the individuals were more gifted or connected, but because they recognized their moment and stepped into it with faith. December becomes such a moment. It is a month filled with prophetic urgency, a month where God desires to crown the year with His goodness and cause paths to drip with abundance. Heaven begins to reorder things, reposition people, and cause long-standing promises to gain expression. It is in this season that God compresses time, redeeming months of delay in a single act of favor. What could not break through in previous months begins to bow under the weight of divine visitation. The prophetic doorway of December carries a grace for completion, for restoration, for fulfillment, and for the manifestation of deeply rooted expectations. This doorway is not merely symbolic, it carries spiritual technology. Angels are on assignment, moving through families, lifting burdens, healing wounds, restoring lost years, and realigning destinies back to their original patterns. Many who have walked through seasons of pain, emptiness, confusion, and stagnation begin to sense an unusual hope rising within them. This is not positive thinking. It is the stirring of destiny responding to a shift in the spiritual atmosphere. In prophetic seasons, God breathes upon desires that seemed forgotten. He begins to revive dreams that were buried under disappointment. He touches places of brokenness that people hid behind strength. He shines light on paths that once looked impossible to navigate. The prophetic doorway of December becomes a moment where heaven endorses movement and compels the earth to respond. It is the month where what was once difficult suddenly becomes attainable, because God has sanctioned change. The weight of December's prophetic significance is also seen in how God restores spiritual sensitivity. Many who drifted through the year, overwhelmed by battles or distracted by life's demands, suddenly feel the call to return, to pray, to seek, to listen. This is because God is preparing them for divine encounters that require readiness. In prophetic seasons, God does not only change circumstances, He changes people. He strengthens the weary, rekindles the fire of the brokenhearted, and empowers those who felt spiritually cold or disconnected. December becomes the womb of revival, the moment where hearts soften again and faith becomes alive. It is in these moments that God invites His people to partner with Him so that the fullness of His intention for the season can be birthed without resistance. This month becomes a divine signal that God is not done with His people, regardless of how the year unfolded. The setbacks, the betrayals, the failures, the unexpected storms, December announces that heaven still has the final say. God compresses testimonies into the final moments of the year as a prophetic statement that He remains the Alpha and the Omega. Many will experience unexpected calls, breakthroughs, reconciliations, and doors that open without warning because the season demands it. When God declares a prophetic doorway, everything in creation begins to align. Time begins to submit. Circumstances begin to shift. People begin to act in ways that fulfill divine prophecy without even realizing they are being influenced by the Spirit. The month becomes a spiritual highway where prayers rise easily and answers descend quickly. It becomes the moment where divine visitation moves from expectation to manifestation because God has chosen to honor the cries of His people. Breakthrough responds to alignment, not wishes, and this reality is one of the most profound truths in the realm of spiritual transformation. Many people desire change, pray for miracles, and dream about a better life, but desire alone does not shift seasons. There is a spiritual order to breakthrough, a pattern that heaven recognizes, and it is only when a person aligns with that pattern that divine intervention is activated. Alignment means bringing your thoughts, actions, decisions, and posture into agreement with what God is doing and saying. It means stepping into a position where grace can flow freely without hindrance. Wishes do not move mountains, but alignment positions you under the hand of God in such a way that the mountains begin to move on their own. This is why two people can pray for the same thing, but only one receives the manifestation. One prayed from a place of alignment, the other prayed from a place of wishful thinking. Alignment is the bridge between promise and manifestation, between prophecy and fulfillment, between expectation and experience. In a month like December, where the atmosphere is charged with prophetic potential, alignment becomes even more critical. There are seasons where God's blessings are available, but only to those who tune their spirits to receive. When God releases a word of breakthrough, He is not just making a promise, He is offering an invitation, a call to position yourself correctly. Many destinies have been delayed, not because God denied them, but because they were not aligned when heaven opened the door. Alignment requires humility, the willingness to adjust, the readiness to obey, even when the instruction feels inconvenient or illogical. God lifts those who bend. He promotes those who surrender. He honors those who align with His voice rather than their emotions. In this prophetic season, alignment becomes the key that unlocks the supernatural. Many will fast, pray, and declare, but it will be the ones who align their hearts and actions with divine instruction who will see the fullness of what God intends. Alignment is not passive. It is intentional. It means aligning your faith with God's ability rather than your fear of impossibility. It means aligning your confession with God's promises rather than your circumstances. It means aligning your priorities with God's agenda rather than temporary distractions. People often want breakthrough without changing anything about their lives, but breakthrough is attracted to transformation. When God sees a heart that is willing to shift, He responds with grace and power. Some breakthroughs require forgiveness. Some require obedience to a simple instruction. Some require detaching from people who hinder your growth. Some require stepping out in boldness. Even when uncertainty surrounds you, alignment demands honesty with oneself. It demands willingness to let go of habits, patterns, and mindsets that keep you in cycles of stagnation. When alignment happens internally, breakthrough manifests externally. Another dimension of alignment is spiritual consistency. Many pray passionately for a week and grow cold the next. They start the month strong and lose momentum by the middle of it. But breakthrough often comes to those who remain steadfast, who keep praying even when there is no sign of change, who keep believing even when the evidence contradicts the promise. In prophetic seasons, the enemy often attacks consistency because he knows that sustained alignment produces unstoppable momentum. When a person remains aligned long enough, something eventually breaks in the spirit and manifestation becomes inevitable. Consistency in prayer, in faith, in discipline, in obedience creates a spiritual rhythm that heaven responds to. It becomes a sign of maturity, a sign that you are ready not just to receive breakthrough, but to steward it well. Alignment also involves discerning God's voice in the noise of life. Many people miss divine instructions because they are too distracted to hear. In seasons of breakthrough, God often whispers. He gives subtle nudges, quiet impressions, gentle promptings. Those who are spiritually alert catch them. Those who are careless overlook them. Alignment requires quieting the soul, making space for God's direction, allowing Him to interrupt your plans. Sometimes breakthrough comes through a single instruction. Go here. Speak to this person. Apply for this. Let this go. Pray at this hour. Give this seed. Avoid this path. These instructions may appear small, but they carry the weight of destiny. When a person obeys, the supernatural responds. In this December season, alignment becomes the posture of expectation. It becomes the way you tell heaven that you are ready. It becomes the signal that you are not just wishing for change, but preparing for it. When your heart, your mind, your faith, your actions, and your decisions harmonize with God's movement, breakthrough becomes natural. It ceases to be a struggle and becomes a divine flow. Wishes may inspire hope, but alignment produces results. Those who align will see the kind of victory that others only pray for. Those who align will walk into open doors that were previously shut. Those who align will experience restoration that defies logic. This is why breakthrough responds to alignment, because alignment is proof of trust, proof of readiness, and proof that you are positioned for the next level of glory God desires to release into your life. God is restoring what was lost, and this truth carries a depth that reaches into the hidden places of the human heart, where pain, disappointment, and unspoken longing reside. Restoration is not merely the return of something that disappeared. It is the divine act of bringing back what was taken, rebuilding what was broken, reviving what died, and replenishing what was drained. God does not restore partially. He restores completely, abundantly, and supernaturally. Many people walk through life carrying silent losses, relationships that crumbled, opportunities that slipped away, years wasted in confusion, mistakes that shaped the wrong direction, finances that collapsed, health that deteriorated, and dreams they buried because the weight of life felt too heavy. Yet divine restoration means heaven steps into the timeline of your life and reclaims what the enemy thought he destroyed forever. It means God lifts the ashes of your past and breathes life into them until beauty emerges. It means the story does not end where pain tried to write its final chapter. In seasons like December, when divine visitation intensifies, restoration becomes more than a promise. It becomes an active operation of the Spirit. This is the month where God begins to revisit the places where people were wounded, overlooked, or robbed. There are silent battles many have endured over the years, battles they never voiced. They lost themselves in the process. They lost confidence, passion, relationships, or the simple ability to believe again. But when God declares a season of restoration, He does not start from the surface. He begins with the heart. He restores joy that was eroded by disappointment. He restores peace that was shattered by unexpected storms. He restores hope that was buried under cycles of failure. Before anything external changes, God first heals the internal fractures that made breakthrough seem impossible. Restoration is God stepping into the broken chambers of someone's soul and turning sorrow into strength, heaviness into praise, and confusion into clarity. Restoration also means the recovery of opportunities and moments that seem permanently lost. Many look back at earlier years in their lives and feel regret. Doors they should have walked through, chances they missed because fear overtook them, wrong decisions that pushed them off track, seasons where they were not spiritually sensitive enough to discern what God was doing. But God, in His mercy, does not allow regret to imprison destiny. When He restores, He redeems time. He can bring new opportunities that carry the weight of everything lost. He can open doors that make years of stagnation irrelevant. He can orchestrate connections that compensate for seasons of isolation or betrayal. Divine restoration is not limited by age, background, or past mistakes. When God restores, He creates new pathways that rewrite the future. Many people will look back at this December season and realize that God compressed answers, realigned their steps, and accelerated their journey in ways that only restoration can accomplish. Furthermore, restoration touches relationships. Many have endured broken connections, family divisions, friendships that collapsed, marriages that suffered, bonds that were strained by misunderstandings or spiritual attacks. The weight of relational loss often affects the heart more deeply than financial or material loss. But God is a God who heals relational wounds. In this season, hearts begin to soften. People who drifted apart begin to reconnect. Unspoken apologies start forming in the hearts of those who hurt you. Divine restoration can repair what years of conflict damaged. It can bring healing where communication was lost. It can revive love where bitterness had grown. Restoration does not always mean things return to their exact previous form. Sometimes God restores by giving new relationships, new mentors, new circles, new connections that elevate you beyond the limitations of the past. Another dimension of restoration is the revival of spiritual fire. Many entered the year strong, praying, believing, and engaging spiritually with passion. But over time, battles drained them. Disappointments weakened their intensity. Consistency became difficult. They found themselves spiritually dry, going through routines without fire. But when God restores, He reignites hunger. He awakens spiritual sensitivity. He breathes fresh wind into prayer. He rekindles the desire to seek Him. Suddenly, scriptures become alive again. Worship becomes deeper. Discernment sharpens. This restoration is critical because spiritual dryness often becomes the root of every other form of stagnation. When fire returns, direction returns. When fire returns, strength returns. When fire returns, breakthrough follows naturally. God also restores identity. There are people who lost themselves in toxic environments, in seasons of failure, in relationships that damaged their sense of worth. But divine restoration resets identity. God reminds them who they are, what they carry, and why He created them. He breaks the lies of the enemy and restores confidence with clarity. He restores purpose with boldness. He restores the voice that life tried to silence. This December season carries a prophetic assurance that nothing lost is beyond recovery. Strength is returning. Joy is returning. Opportunities are returning. Relationships are healing. Vision is awakening. Dreams are being revived. God is restoring not just what you lost, but also who you became while you were losing it. Every long standing battle ends, and this truth carries a sound in the realm of the Spirit that speaks of finality, closure, and divine intervention. There are battles that people fight silently for years, cycles that repeat themselves, challenges that seem to defy prayer, situations that mock faith, and patterns that follow individuals like shadows. Some battles are inherited, others are birthed from wrong decisions, and some are simply the adversary's attempt to delay destiny. These battles drain strength, weaken confidence, and make hope feel distant. They steal joy, interrupt progress, and create emotional exhaustion. But when God declares that a battle ends, it does not matter how long it has existed, how strong it appears, or how deeply rooted it feels. Heaven steps into the scene and establishes victory. A long-standing battle may have survived your strength, but it cannot survive God's decree. This is the power of divine intervention, that God brings an end to what could not overcome on your own. In seasons like December, where divine visitation increases, God begins to judge the altars, voices and forces that have resisted your rising. Long-standing battles often have a spiritual root. They show up as repeated disappointments, sudden setbacks, unexplained delays, cyclical failures at the edge of breakthrough, and emotional weight that never seems to lift. These battles are not always visible on the outside, but they war against the mind and spirit. They try to convince individuals that nothing will change. But when heaven declares an end to such battles, everything shifts. The unseen forces lose their power. The patterns lose their grip. The cycles lose their momentum. Suddenly, the atmosphere around a person begins to change. What used to fight them begins to favor them. What used to resist now yields. What used to confuse becomes clear. This is what happens when God steps into warfare. He does not negotiate, He overturns. There are battles attached to seasons of life. Some people have battled financial instability for years. No matter how hard they work, something always interrupts their progress. Unexpected bills, losses, missed opportunities, or constant emergencies drain whatever they try to build. But divine intervention breaks such patterns. God releases wisdom, connections, and favor that dismantle the root of financial warfare. He causes the works of your hands to prosper and opens doors that no financial limitation can shut. Others have battled relational warfare, constant betrayals, broken trust, friendships that end painfully, or connections that never seem to last. These patterns create emotional wounds and self-protection barriers. But when God ends relational battles, He brings healing, restoration, and new connections that align with destiny. There are also battles of the mind. Battles with fear, anxiety, depression, self-doubt, or internal heaviness that seems impossible to shake. These silent wars often torment people, even when they smile on the outside. But God has the power to break the spiritual roots behind mental torment. When He intervenes, peace floods the heart, clarity returns, and strength rises. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once felt heavy becomes light. This is the beauty of divine warfare. God does not just remove the enemy, He restores the person who fought the battle. Some battles follow families. Patterns of sickness, patterns of failure, patterns of marital struggles, patterns of untimely death, patterns of addiction, patterns of poverty, patterns of instability. Generational battles can feel the most discouraging because they seem older than a person's life. But when God steps into generational warfare, He breaks chains that existed for decades. He lifts burdens that have passed through bloodlines. He rewrites family stories and raises individuals as the first to break cycles. A battle that took generations to form can dissolve in a moment when God's hand moves. Another kind of long, standing battle is the battle of stagnation. You try, but nothing moves. You pray, but nothing shifts. You plan, but nothing manifests. It feels like you are walking in circles, busy but not progressing. But when God ends stagnation, He releases divine speed. What could not move suddenly leaps forward. Delays break. Momentum increases. Doors open. Favor multiplies. God compresses time and causes years of standing still to be recovered in a short moment. Long-standing battles end because God is a God of seasons. He does not allow warfare to last forever. He knows the weight of human frailty, and He intervenes when the battle begins to threaten destiny. December is one of those prophetic moments where God announces closure. He silences every voice of opposition. He dismantles every force of resistance. He ends battles you have cried over, prayed over, and fought for years. This is the season where heaven declares enough. When God ends a battle, He does not only provide victory, He gives peace. He restores what the battle stole. He heals wounds created by years of struggle. He strengthens what was weakened. He redeems time lost in warfare. He repositions destiny for acceleration. This December season carries the assurance that no matter how long your battle has lasted, God is stepping in with finality, power, and restoration. This month will not end without testimony, and this is a declaration that carries weight beyond human understanding. Many have endured seasons of waiting, of expectation delayed, of prayers that seem to echo into emptiness. They have labored in faith, sowed seeds of devotion, and remained consistent in the midst of trials. Yet the tangible answer has not yet manifested, but God, in His mercy, does not leave the faithful without reward. Testimony is the tangible evidence of God's intervention, the visible manifestation of what was once only believed, the audible proclamation that heaven has moved. A testimony is not just a story, it is a confirmation of divine faithfulness. It is the fruit of persistence, the reward of obedience, and the light that guides others to hope. This December, the atmosphere carries a prophetic promise. Every faithful effort, every sincere prayer, every act of obedience will culminate in testimony. Nothing that has been endured in faith will be wasted, and everything longed for in the Spirit will find expression in the natural. The month will not end without testimony because God's timing is perfect. Many have wrestled with impatience, wondering why answers delay and why seasons of dryness persist. Yet divine timing ensures that testimonies arrive in fullness, often exceeding human expectation. There are answers coming that will surpass what you imagined, solutions that will be larger than the challenges you faced, and blessings that will overshadow the years of struggle. Testimony is a sign that God is faithful and that His promises do not fail. When a testimony manifests, it silences doubt, dispels despair, and strengthens faith. It validates prayer, obedience, and consistency, showing that perseverance is never in vain. In December, God is orchestrating such moments of visible confirmation, moments that will encourage the heart, inspire hope, and ignite belief in what is possible through divine intervention. Testimonies also carry a prophetic dimension. They are not just about what has happened in your life, but about what your life represents in the realm of destiny. Every testimony becomes a beacon for others walking through similar struggles, a declaration that God's power remains active, and that breakthrough is attainable. The month will not end without testimony because the Spirit of God moves to ensure that your experience of victory becomes a narrative of encouragement. Those who have walked through storms, faced setbacks, and encountered opposition will find that their testimonies inspire courage in others. Testimony transforms personal victories into communal celebration. It bridges hope between generations, between communities, and even between nations. When God gives testimony, He is establishing a pattern that transcends individual experience, ensuring that the glory of breakthrough resonates beyond one life. Testimony is also a mechanism of closure. Many have carried burdens, unresolved issues, and seasons of stagnation. These unresolved seasons often generate discouragement and fatigue. A testimony marks the conclusion of a struggle and the beginning of a new chapter. It is a declaration that the battle has been fought and won, that obstacles have been overcome, and that victory is now visible. In December, God is positioning testimonies to close the year in triumph. Those who have felt delayed, hindered, or overlooked will suddenly find that circumstances align, prayers are answered, and opportunities that seemed unreachable manifest in their favor. The testimony becomes the proof that God's intervention was real and that the season of waiting has served a divine purpose. Another aspect of testimony is its restorative power. It restores confidence, revives hope, and strengthens faith. There are people who have been discouraged, beaten down, or missiled by repeated failures. Testimonies rebuild self-belief and reinforce the certainty that God's promises are true. When the month does not end without testimony, it is God's way of ensuring that believers step into the new season not with uncertainty, but with assurance. Testimonies carry energy that transforms doubt into courage, despair into joy, and inactivity into action. They serve as tangible reminders that no effort in faith is wasted and that God's hand is always active, even in the moments when His presence feels distant. This December, the promise of testimony also carries acceleration. Many testimonies are not just about restoration, but about rapid advancement. What took years to struggle through may now come to fruition in a matter of days. Doors that were locked for a long time will open suddenly. Delays that have been persistent will dissolve abruptly. Breakthrough will not only arrive, it will arrive in abundance, in a manner that leaves no room for question. Every person who has remained faithful, prayed consistently, obeyed diligently, and maintained hope despite opposition will find that the month concludes with divine validation. Testimony will mark the closing of challenges and the launching into greater purpose. The month will not end without testimony because God is determined to affirm His people visibly, audibly, and tangibly, ensuring that faith is rewarded, destiny is fulfilled, and hope is restored.